Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Wannabe Author, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the publishing world, traditional, self-publishing, and more. I'm your host, Taryn Christine, an author navigating the turns and plot twists of getting books into readers' hands. Here we get real about the wins, the rejections, and the lessons learned along the way. Whether you're chasing an agent, going self-published, or just curious how it all works, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Wannabe Author. I'm your host, Taryn Christine. And today's episode is a super fun one because our guest today had such an interesting story to share about her journey to publication. She actually started in television writing, where she wrote the script for her idea of her debut novel, Kill The Lax Bro. The night before graduation, all of Hancock High celebrates at their high school's annual lock-in, but what starts as a fun night turns horribly wrong when a body is found, and the victim is none other than Troy Richards, the school's star lacrosse player. Everyone is acting totally clueless. As for suspects, there's Jennifer, the dream girl, Naomi, the geek, Sassy, the overachiever, and Tatum, the rebel. At a glance, they couldn't be more unalike, except for the fact they all hated Troy, the Lax Bro. But who wanted him dead? We get to hear more in depth of that whole journey, what led to what. It was truly such an interesting experience that she shared here on The Wannabe Author. It opened my eyes to, again, so many different paths to publishing. It was so unique and exciting to hear. This author was truly such a joy to speak with. She had so many great insights to share and just a very impressive perspective on the publishing journey and the publishing world in general. I very much enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so excited for y'all to get to know this author more and to learn from her the way I was able to. It is my honor to introduce you all to screenwriter and author Charlotte Lillie Balogh. Charlotte, hi, welcome to The Wannabe Author.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you. You have such a fantastic journey that I've gotten to look a little bit into. But before we dive into that, I always like to start out by asking my guests, what are you currently reading?
So I did look at my current TBR in advance of this question because I am in the middle of multi-reads right now, if only because I am picking things up, putting them down. But my favorite is A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya. She was out here for an event at a local bookstore a few weeks ago. And so it's a enemies to lovers, vampire romance. It's great. It's hitting the perfect beginning of fall, October vibe that I was looking for.
Love. Okay, I've been seeing that book because the cover is so pretty, and I've been wanting to pick it up.
Yes,
I think you've convinced me. Okay,
I
love. All right, yay. Okay, we're gonna dive in to your book. But I'd love for you to paint a picture of kind of your origin story for the listeners. What brought you to sitting down, writing your book, and deciding I'm going to get this published one day?
Okay. There are a lot of things and a lot of people who pushed me, brought me, lit the way. The first person when we talk origin story that I have to talk about is my grandmother. So my grandmother essentially raised me. She came over in the 50s from Eastern Europe, was a doctor, but always wanted to be a writer. I didn't know that part until after she passed away, which was a couple of years ago. But growing up, everything we did was around books and authors. So I grew up outside of Boston, and for fun, we would go to Louisa May Alcott's Orchard House, or we'd walk around Walden Pond. She loved classic American literature and novelists, and it just was instant. I always thought books were the coolest thing, and I genuinely would write stories before I knew how to spell. I would write words down and I would have my grandmother translate it. I literally would draw zigzags and she'd be like, oh, this is the sentence. And then we'd to draw the pictures together. And so there was no other alternative, I think, in my life than becoming a writer because of her. And from there, the more the bigger milestones were in high school, I actually wrote and self-published 2 books. So we were talking about self-publishing briefly. And those were, I had to write. It wasn't so much I want to be a writer. What book idea do I have? It was just like all I did was writing. Like I remember getting my first laptop, and that was a big deal because, you know, like my hands would cramp up from writing, and then I would just bring it everywhere. Like I'd bring it in the car. Like I'd be writing whenever I went to flying with family, like on vacation. Like I was writing all the time. I couldn't stop. And so then those first books that I self-published were, I was like 15, 16 when I finished them. I tried querying, but everyone was like, you're a teenager, like come back later, which I took a lot of offense to. But I also saved, like printed out all of the like rejection letters and made this really cutesy teenage scrapbook that I still have. So that happened. Going into college, I think was the first time I really thought more like, oh, I could do this as a job professionally. Because up until then, I had just been loving books. And so when I went to school, I chose to major in television and film, which in my brain, I was like, oh, I know how to write books. Like I've been reading my whole life. Like I self-published this thing. I have no idea how to write a screenplay. Like I should study that. Like that will be a nice thing to add in, which in hindsight I think is just like the ego of a teenager being like, well, I know how to do that already, like I'm gonna do the other the other thing instead. And so in college my focus shifted more to TV and film. That's ultimately what brought me out to LA. And then I didn't go back into like sitting and writing fiction at such, again, intensity or, you know, more for that professional side than just the personal, really until it was right before COVID, I'm gonna say. It was when I was like already starting to get back into it. I had a project that was, to answer your question, is like the one that pushed me to come back and sit down and take it seriously. However, it's not Lax Bro. So there are a couple moving pieces here. There was this project that I had started writing as a TV pilot. Because again, when you work in TV, everyone's like, you have to have a sample. You have to have something that people can hire you with. And so I started writing this TV pilot, young adult, coming of age, grounded in reality. And then I met someone like at a house party, which sounds like a very LA thing, but it was like we were making like we were like barbecuing in a backyard. Like it wasn't like a LA it was just like a friend's party. And I was telling her about this TV pilot, and she's like, oh, you should write that as a book. Like, that sounds like a book. Have you ever thought about writing books? And in my brain, I was like, have I thought about it? Like, you know, however many years ago I was doing the scribbles in my grandmother. Of course it was books. Like, how did I forget that books were the thing I wanted to write first? So then I started writing that project as a book. That is the manuscript I got my agent with. And I was doing that one, like, while also I was an assistant in Hollywood. And then I got, like, I say Hollywood assistant as the idea of like, I'm waking up and writing at 5 a.m. before going to my day job. Like, that is why I need to make that disclaimer. And then we went out on sub with that book in fall 2022, I believe. And within an hour, we got an email back from my now editor at Delacorte, who was like, I just opened it up. I love it. Like, I love the world. I love the ideas. I don't think it's a first book. Like, she was like, I don't know if the audience is here for it. And then she said, like, literally in this email, she's like, oh, I went to Charlotte's website. And I'm like, what's on my website? Like, I don't know what's over there. And she's like, I saw this YouTube video that I had posted totally separate of all of this for a table read of a completely different TV pilot. And that TV pilot was called Kill The Lax Bro. And my editor was like, would you do that as a book instead? Like, could we do that one instead? I think that's the one. And literally this YouTube video, like, it still exists out there. So if you're curious, you can find it. But it's a very casual table read. My brother is reading one of the roles. He's definitely like hungover. You know, like, it's like such a not professional setup. But it was the first iteration idea of Lax Bro that I had, again, completely separately been doing for TV, and had written as a sample that I thought no one would read, but it could be something I'd submit with a resume one day. And that is where Lax Bro came from. So it was bought on proposal. They knew I could deliver a manuscript because I already had one and I had my agent. And then I we sold it officially the following summer, so summer 2023, and then I was working on the like first draft during the writer's strike. So oddly, the timing kind of worked out because everything in the TV world was shut down, so I didn't have a job, but I didn't have a job and could work on the book, and so it was kind of a bit of a tag team effort, and that's how Lax Bro came to be. Oh, and then I should say, but why I go on this really long rambling rant is because I have sold my second book to Penguin and to Delacorte, and it is the first book that they kind of said no to in 2022. So I'm very excited about it, and that is very much the book that was like, you need to be an author, like go tell this into the world. So now we're gearing up to do it all over again. Yeah.
What a fun, unique roller coaster. That is awesome.
There's a lot of this. I have to talk with my hands because like you cannot see the journey any other way.
No, I love it. I love it. That is so cool. Okay. I'm curious when you sit, because you are a screenwriter and an author. This is like a little out of my usual questions, but when you sit down to write either or, do you feel like it's the same? Like, are you in the same mindset, same location, content ingested? Like, do you feel like it's the same routine, or is it different?
I am finding, so it can always change. My routine is different for every project. I do I am now so much more aware of how screenwriting informs how I write. Even like from like technical, like what scene I write first, how I outline, huge outline. Like there's so much from the idea of like the TV writer's room that I feel like I've copied my favorite parts and put it into my own book world where it's just me in the writer's room. Um, Even things like I don't like writing alone, like physically. Like I like to be out in coffee shops. Like I don't want to be alone in my apartment. I like to talk about my ideas with people. So usually it's either like friends that I have turned into beta readers, my siblings, or like my dad. And I literally will just call my dad and be like, "So at the Act 2 break, like," and he is, like he's not a writer and he just listens and is like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And that's all I need is like that sounding board, which comes from TV, 100%. Um, I do also think that there's a little bit tongue in cheek, like writers' rooms always have the best snacks, right? Like that's like there's someone whose job it is to like make sure it's fully stocked and you're well fed. And so, perhaps I've picked up some of that too, and I'm always snacking at the same time, but yeah.
Love that. Love that. Okay. It's very interesting. I think you're the second screenwriter I've had on the show. So I love like hearing the different skills and how, like you said, it kind of feeds into the book writing and stuff. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you kind of gave a little rundown of your publishing journey, but I am curious. I always like to ask this with the rundown of somebody's publishing journey. What was the most surprising aspect of the journey for you to getting this book out there?
The most surprising, I'm like, I think it was that this is like how I try and explain it when I talk to other screenwriters or just other folks that are familiar with like the TV film machine, is that even when it was a yes, it being like every decision, like, yes, this is the cover, yes, this is the, like, whenever there was a yes, it still moved so slowly, which I don't want to be like it's so slow as a bad thing, but it, like, I'm used to seeing projects in TV that get like optioned, right? And like it's a yes, and that doesn't mean anything, and it will disappear and you will never see it again. And so this idea of like it's super slow, but it's a yes was really interesting, and it didn't have that like instant gratification, like, oh yeah, like we're going to film next weekend. That was something that I feel like I really even now have to remind myself about and adjust to, because it felt disorienting to be like, wait, but like, shouldn't something else be happening? Like, shouldn't we be having a meeting about, shouldn't we be talking about it? And it's like, no, like, it just, there are so many people and teams, and it takes time to print a physical paper book. And there are like restrictions on paper that are going to change schedules. And there are only so many printing presses, and the, like, all of those factors to me were definitely the biggest unknown coming into it.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like you don't understand all the moving parts, all the different pieces to the puzzle of bringing one book to life until you're kind of hearing it from an author going through it. Like, I feel like I learned something new with each guest that comes on, that there's just so many moving parts, and like slow isn't bad, but it's definitely something you have to be prepared for.
Yeah, even the way you have now just like distilled it, slow isn't bad. That's it. See, this is, if we were in a writer's room, we'd be coming up with ideas together. But that's it. That's the theme.
Yes, love it. Okay. Now, what do you wish wow. What do you wish someone had told you when you were a wannabe author just trying to get your work out there to the world?
Ooh, I so many things, so many things. But like, honest to God, I really just want to like, if I could go back in time, give that girl a hug and like buy her a coffee or something. You know, like genuinely, that's the first. It's just like, whew, it's gonna be okay. The second, more constructive piece, I would say, is only don't worry about making the project 100%. Get it to 80%. Like, when it is at 80%, it's done. It's done, and go write the next one. And I feel really strongly about this, and I still have to remind myself every day of this. But for me, all of the projects that have taken off started in a completely different format. Like, it was, this is a book and now it's a script, or this is a script and now it's a book. Like, they're all over the place. And I think what has been the most helpful to me is having multiple, not half baked, almost fully baked ideas out there, that when somebody says, what else do you have? You're not up against a wall like, oh my God, like, what else is there? Like, I have devoted my whole life to this one project. Like, what are you talking about? And so even when I think about the books that I self-published as a teenager, that was like, I spent years of my life in one world, which was great and wonderful and very fun. And yet now having the muscle memory to be able to be like, and now I'm doing Kill the Lax Bro, and now I'm doing this thing, and then there's this other thing over there, and they don't all have to be perfect. Honestly, none of them should be perfect, because they never are. So it's just an arbitrary deadline that you're chasing. I think it takes off so much pressure from the writer. And the idea of quantity over quality is too far in this direction, but there is something to be said for having lots of ideas that you love, and authentically, like, really really love them, and then being able to jump into different sandboxes and play around when the opportunity presents itself.
I think that was perfectly said, and something I don't think we've heard very much, if at all, here on this podcast. I think that was perfect advice that I definitely needed to hear as well.
Well, and again, like, this is what I say and remind myself every day, and I don't want to detract from like the purity of the author book relationship as well. I know, I have a book, I have another one in me that, in my brain, it's the big one. Like, that's when I talk about with people, I'm like, I'm working on the big one. The big one is so far from being done, and it's something that, like, I think about that project every day. I work on it every couple months, but nothing's actually happening to it. And the point with that is, and yet I'm doing six other things over here while this is still marinating and we're having time. And so you should have that big, everyone needs to have the big one that is like the book that gets them into publishing, the book that they're staying up late writing, the book that, like, you know, it makes you excited to get to work, and also have more all at once.
I love that. Okay, keeping with this like inspirational thing we got going. Have you ever thought about giving up, and if so, what kept you going?
It's, I think about it all the time, but that's I'm like, does anybody not? Like, not seriously, I think about everything all the time. So like of course I think about that all the time. I when I look I now have the privilege of looking back and being like, well, obviously these were the steps that were laid out that got me this far, right? But I didn't feel them at the time. And so when I look back, what I really see is all of the people that like pushed me just a little bit. Again, my grandmother's like the most obvious one. If I ever had a day, like a really, really bad day, that's like, why am I doing this? Like, why don't I just like go like live on a goat farm or something? I don't know. I'm like, she would kill me. Okay. So that's not necessarily the most uplifting mentor figure. She would actually, she would be like, get yourself together, go back and go after your dream. Like, why would you settle for anything less? So there's a little bit of like, you have that motivation from people. I then also think about more, I don't know, pragmatically, but every single teacher that would let me, like for the final project, the number of times it was, all right, everybody in the class is going to write a 5 paragraph analytical essay, or you can write a like 25 page creative short story. Charlotte, go for it. Like the number of people that made space for me to practice and like go after this weird intangible thing is it like breathtaking. Like I cannot believe there were so many humans in my life that let me like experiment and like get this far. And so on the days where you want to quit, it's like it just doesn't even really occur to me in here because I have had so much emotional support up until now that on those days it's so much more up here. It's like a freaked out, like, oh my God, like, you know, should I be at somewhere else in my life? Should I be living in LA? Should I be living in, wherever? But the people just they were what got me this far, and they're 100% what keep me here.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. And your grandmother sounds like someone I think I would have really gotten along with. She sounds like a fabulous human being.
She's the best. Like genuinely so stubborn, so sassy, like Spitfire, I guess would be the best. Also, I'm fairly tall. I'm like 5'10". She was like 5'1". So like to see us hanging out together when I was like a teenager was insane. Like I feel like people would be like, who are you guys? But yeah, she's the best.
I love that. And I think we all need that kind of that voice you said that she was for you and is now, that motivational, like, you cannot. Like we all need that voice in our head, whether it's ourselves or like someone in our lives. But I love how you said like it was people giving you the chance to be free with your experimentation and just getting out there. And that is such a motivational thing to keep going because you're like, well, they've let me get this far. I can't back out now. So I love how you said that.
Yeah.
Perfectly put.
Well, and even a more like recent or day-to-day example, when I am writing and I get stuck on something and I have that day that's like like not so much I want to give up, but it's like this isn't going to go anywhere. Like I'm just going to sit here stewing over this one chapter over and over and over again. That is when like I'm texting my sister or my brother and I'm like, "Can you just read this and tell me if it's good enough?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is, like just keep going." And pieces like that is what motivates me to like I need the external validation. I need a gold sticker. But it's from friends, it's from my family, like it's from the people in my life. It's not necessarily like an outside out too big an outside voice.
Love. Okay. Now, this is the second season of the Wannabe Author, and something I've been focusing on for theme, thank you, is conversation, connection, networking. So this has been a favorite question of mine to ask as we wrap up is what is one conversation or exchange in your life or even during your journey to publication that has stuck with you? And it could be advice, kind words, or harsh criticism that helped you move forward in your path.
Okay, so many for the record. I'm like, there's so many, and I don't want like I can't even begin to. Okay, if I had to pick one, I at the beginning of this year, and I recommend this to all writers at any point in your career. But at the beginning of this year, I started reaching out to authors that were at my imprint, were maybe like a couple years ahead of me. I actually started this 2 years ago when I first sold my book. I started reaching out to authors at my imprint for informational like Zooms and coffee, and part of that's because I don't like being alone in my apartment. I'm not even the biggest fan of Zoom, no offense, or like screens, but I really just wanted to talk to people and like find friends. Like part of it was the networking, the research gathering, the learning about the industry. And then the other part was like finding someone to be like, do you also feel this way when you're writing the second act? Like, am I crazy? And because of that, like, so it was like once a month, I would like Zoom with a different author. And in that process, I feel like one of the bigger things I learned was that there are different, like, it's like, I want to be an author. And it actually is like this. And there's all these different types of being an author. So there's, being a lead title author, there's being a mid-list author, and I don't mean that like maybe it should be like this because I don't want it to be like hierarchy, but they're all the different types of author: indie publishing, self-publishing, trad publishing, all these things. And as I was coming into my like months before my first book was coming out, I was really starting to feel like, am I a real author? Like, is this it? Not like that. That sounds too depressing. But there are some goals that once you get to them, you're like, well, if I did it, like, was it that hard? I don't know. That like it.
I get what you're saying.
God, I know, but I'm gonna get out of my own way, and I'm gonna skip to the positive words that I received. So, I had a Zoom with Kathleen Glasgow, who is so kind and so sweet, just like genuinely like warm through the computer screen. And I was telling her all of this. Like it was maybe a month before my book had actually been published, and I was like, I don't like, that's when you have the fear and you're like, no one's going to buy it. No one's going to come to my book signing. I'm going to be sitting there alone. I'm never going to get to do this again, right? Like this was a dream and it happened and now it's done. Like that's kind of this feeling of, am I safe? Am I an author forever, or am I only an author for this book or for this life cycle, this book, etc. And I was telling her all of my fears and concerns and all the things. And then that was right around the time we had sold my like second book to Delacorte, which also I told her, and I was like, yeah, but what if it's a mistake? Like they don't want you on it. And she passed along a piece of advice that had been passed on to her, which was, congratulations on your career. And her saying that was just like, oh, this is not a mistake. The like dreams do not have the deadline, like it also doesn't plateau. Like it just keeps going. Like it's a journey, but now you're in it, and now you're gonna go find like the next, thing to stress out about, the next project to write, the next person to give you more advice to get to the next place. And just the way she said it, I remember this moment of like absolute serenity, like settling on me, because I was like, well, if she thinks we're doing okay, maybe we're doing okay. But yeah, does
I
that
love that.
answer without being too depressing?
Okay, I
You know?
think I think I can
Uh,
I think I relate with you like extremely, and it's kind of like what you were explaining your feelings before, and it's kind of why I named this podcast The Wannabe Author, because everyone's saying like you write, that means you're an author. Totally get that. But I'm always going to feel like the wannabe author no matter what steps. I mean, I've published the book. I've done, but you feel like the wannabe, like it's not stable. Like you were saying, it's that fear that like you haven't really made it and stuff. But there's also this, like you're saying, it continues. You continue to learn. You're still like a wannabe author reaching for the next thing and getting there. And so I don't know if I even made sense in that, but I was trying to relate with, like, I get what you're saying.
Once again, I'm like, when the words come out of your mouth, they sound a lot better. Maybe it's the microphone, maybe that's what's like telling it, but I'm like, yes, yeah, that's it. I'm gonna write that down, and yeah, but
Yay, okay. No, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it was perfectly put. Okay. Now, these are like the more like little fun, lighthearted questions to end us off. But outside of being an author, what is a fun thing? What is a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
I'm like, I'm an open book. Everybody knows everything about me. A fun fact about me is I coach a girls rowing team. So I was a rower. Yes, I was a rower in high school. My dad actually taught me to row when I was in middle school. Like he like forced me into a boat. He was a rower. He's a coach now. That's kind of how I got into coaching. But I was a rower in high school. I went to college for rowing. So that was when I was looking to study screenwriting. It was like, where can I study that and row at the same time was how I ended up where I ended up. And then I stopped rowing for a couple of years. Again, like after like coming into LA, like there's not a lot of water here. And then I started as a volunteer coach in 2018. And I am now US Rowing is our like governing body as a sport, and I'm a level 3 certified coach, which is like the highest ranking you can get. So if you ever want to talk nuts and bolts and cardio, hit me up. But I get to coach. It's a middle school and high school squad. I'm usually with the middle schoolers, and they're generally like the best, like single best part of my week is going and hanging out with them and teaching them to row. And sometimes I ask them their thoughts on stories that I'm writing, and they are very honest, which is awesome.
I love that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that is so much fun. Okay. What is your favorite trope to read or write in?
I mean, I love enemies to lovers. I do. I do. That said, have yet to write it well. Like, I feel like when I I'm too literal, and I'm like, well, but that would actually be awful if someone said that to me. Or I'm like, you can't keep up with my banter. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, no, no. So love to read it. Have yet to be able to produce in a way that I feel like is real and what I would like to consume. I do feel like my favorite to write, I'm gonna say found family. Even though Lax Bro is a thriller, stabby murder mystery, there are some like incredibly important elements of found family, friendship, sisterhood in that book that I do also now see carry across a lot of my work.
Love. I'm a huge slut for found family too, so
Yeah.
love that.
I would like that on a t-shirt actually. I am a slut for found family.
Sounds so weird now that I think about it out of context.
Uh,
Oh, love. Okay. I know you talked about your second book being bought up, but what is next for you? If you want to tease anything on your future projects, or if you have any events, you can shout them out. Would love to hear everything.
well, it's like a couple things and nothing. One, I don't know if I can really talk about the second book yet, but there is a second book. It's young adult. It's that first manuscript I wrote years ago. That one really is like book of my heart and soul, and I'm so excited that I will be able to talk about it soon. So that's coming. Literally, that's like what I'm sending off an email today. Other things that are coming. This is a very fun event, but I cannot really invite any of you all to it. There is a senior home near me that reached out because they chose Lax Bro for their monthly book club pick. And so like I think in 2 or 3 weeks I'm going to like go to their book club, and I cannot wait. It's gonna be awesome. And I'm like, this was not the target demo I had in mind when I wrote a young adult 90s like whatever it romp, but oh my god, I think they're gonna love it. Like I cannot wait. And then also just like rowing wise, like with my coaching and with my girls, we've headed the Charles at the end of October, which is the biggest race of the year. I'm racing in it this year, and everyone should pay attention to it. It's a great time.
Love. Okay, you have those are honestly some super exciting things going on. I'm so excited for you. I want to hear all about this senior book club event you got going on. That is
Right?
so fun.
It's gonna be great.
Okay. How fun. Okay, Charlotte, thank you so much for joining me today. Truly, your journey is one of the more unique ones I've had the privilege of hearing here on the show. And not just in the idea that you just like didn't quit and you kept going. Like obviously you show a lot of like determination to get your craft out there, but especially in just like you wanting to do everything and just get your hands into all like you just very well-rounded in everything that you're doing. This has been a very fun conversation for me to hear. And I've learned a lot from you, not only in just like not having fear and to try everything, but also like, we all have these feelings of like, is this really happening? But continuing on and just pushing for what you want, this was a great conversation. So thank you so much. I know the listeners are going to absolutely fall in love with not only your book, but hearing from you as well. So excited to see what else you do with your books.
Thank you. Thank you again for like making this space for people to learn from and hang out in. I think this is awesome what you do. And like the parting thoughts, which are always so aggressively simple that I have rolled my eyes at it my entire life. And it's what my dad says. And I will say it to everyone is just keep writing. Like that's it. Just keep going. Really. That's all it takes.
I love that that's coming from your dad, like how you said he's like not a writer, but he's got it. He's got it. He knows what's up. I love that.
I think it's the rowing mindset. This idea of like, you practice every day. You practice for the big race. There are different ways of practicing. You use different muscles, but you just got to keep going in one direction.
Love. Okay. I would love to continue to chat with you off camera, but I'm going to go ahead and close up with the listeners. Thank y'all for listening, and we will see y'all next Thursday. Bye.